Who is it? What do you want?
My husband sent me to ask you if you have any lead to spare. He's going fishing tomorrow and needs lead to weigh down the nets.
I just got some lead today. Here you go.
Thank you very much. I promise you the first fish my husband catches will be yours.
Think nothing of it.
The miller returned to bed and forgot all about the incident. The next day, he returned home from work and found his wife cooking a fish for dinner.
Since when can we afford fish for dinner?
Don't you remember? The fisherman's wife promised us the first fish for the lead, but that's not even the best part. When I was gutting him, I found a giant piece of glass in his stomach.
What did you do with it?
I gave it to the children to play with.
Narrator. Your part.
That's mine. When the miller saw the piece of glass, he noticed it shone very brightly, but he knew nothing about the jewels. But he didn't recognize its value. He left it for the children to play with. But the bright glass was such a treat, the children soon raised a fuss. Now it so happened the miller and his wife knew the new neighbors that were jewelers. The next morning, the jeweler's wife came to complain about the noise the children had made.
Hello. We couldn't get any sleep last night.
I'm sorry, my children were complaining over a piece of glass we found in a fish's stomach.
Would you be kind enough to show me this piece of glass?
Sure, here you go.
Yes, it is a very pretty piece of glass. Where did you find it?
Our neighbor gave us a fish yesterday, and while I was cleaning it, I found the glass in the stomach.
Why don't you let me take it for just a moment? You see, I have one just like it, and I want to compare them.
Yes, why not? Take it.
So the jeweler's wife ran off with the glass to show it to her husband. When the jeweler saw the glass, he instantly knew it was one of the finest diamonds he had ever seen.
It's a diamond!
I thought so. What shall we do?
Go tell the neighbor we'll give her $50 for it, but don't tell her it's a diamond.
No. Of course not. Ah, yes, we have one exactly like this. My husband is willing to buy it for $50. Only so he can have a pair, you understand.
I can't sell it. You will have to wait until my husband returns from work.
That evening, when the miller came home from work, his wife told him about the offer the jeweler made for the piece of glass.
Why would they offer $50 for a worthless piece of glass?
What do you say, neighbor? Will you take $50 for the glass?
No, that's not enough. Offer more.
I'll give you $50,000.
A little bit more, please.
Impossible! I can't offer any more without consulting my husband.
Okay.
She ran off to tell her husband how the bartering was going, and he told her she was prepared to pay $100,000 to acquire the diamond. He handed her $75,000 and said, "Take this and tell him that tomorrow, as soon as I open my shop, he'll have the rest." When the miller heard the offer and saw the money, he couldn't believe his eyes. He imagined the jeweler's wife was jesting him, but it was a true offer, and he received $100,000 for the diamond. The miller had never seen so much money, but he didn't quite trust the jeweler. I don't know about this money. Maybe the jeweler plans to accuse us of robbing him and thus get it back.
Oh no! The money is ours. We sold the diamond fair and square, and we didn't rob anyone.
I think I'll still go to work tomorrow. Who knows? Something might happen and the money will disappear. Then we would be without money and work. Then how would we live?
So he went to work the next day, and all day he thought about how he could use the money. When he returned home that afternoon, his wife asked him what he had decided to do with their new fortune.
I think I'll start my own mill, like the one my master had me working at. Once we operate our business, we'll see how the money does then.
The next day, he set about buying everything he needed to establish his mill and to build a new home. Soon he had everything going. 6 months had passed, more or less, since he had seen the two men who had given him the $400 and the piece of lead. He was eager to see them again and to tell them how the piece of lead had changed his luck and made him wealthy. Time passed and the miller prospered. His business grew and he even built a small summer cottage where he could take his family on vacation. He had many employees who worked for him. One day, while he was at his store, he saw two benefactors riding by. He rushed out into the street to greet them and asked them to come in. He was overjoyed to see them, and he was happy to see that they admired his store.
Tell us the truth. How did you start this business?
I swear I didn't just use the money. I found a diamond in the fish gut, and the jeweler gave me big money for it. That's how I acquired this business and many other things I want to show you. But first, it's time to eat, and then I'll show you everything I have now. The men agreed, but one of them still doubted the miller's story. So they ate, and then the miller had 3 horses saddled, and they rode out to see his summer home. The cabin was on the other side of the river, where the mountains were cool and beautiful. When they arrived, the men admired the place very much. It was such a peaceful place, and they rode all afternoon through the forest. During the ride, they came upon a tall pine tree.
What's that in the tree?
By George! I think that's the hawk that stole my money in the first place. If that's true, then this will prove my point that I did not use that money to start the business.
I'll help you.
Gotcha! Look at that! $200 right there from this little thief. Still, the men who had given him the money were not satisfied. He wondered what really happened to the second $200 they had given the miller. They spent the rest of the day riding in the mountains and returned very late to the house. As he unsaddled their horses, the servant in charge of grooming and feeding the horses suddenly realized that he had no grain for them. He ran to the barn and checked, but there was no grain for the hungry horses. So he ran to a neighbor's granary, and there he was able to buy a large clay jar of bran. He carried the jar home and emptied the bran into a bucket to wet it before he fed it to the horses. When he got to the bottom of the jar, he noticed a large lump which turned out to be a rag-covered package. He examined it and felt something inside. He immediately went to give it to his master, who had been eating dinner. When they opened up the package, they found $190, which the miller had told them he had lost. That is how the miller proved to his friends that he was truly an honest man, and they decided for themselves whether it had been luck or money which had made the miller a wealthy man.